We got news on blockchain, game development, localization, game mechanics. So many things were dropped in the Discord from a Q&A with Reynad last night. I'm going to cover them as quickly as I can and keep you guys up to date. First things first, the development of the game itself is getting there. Unfortunately, there's no real measurable metric. As Reynad goes on to say here in a question that was asked, they don't exactly just design it from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. It's a process of iteration, so even they themselves probably don't quite know how far along they are. But the short news is we're probably not getting beta Q1, probably looking more at Q2, Q3, and then later on the year. The next thing I wanted to cover is the release of heroes. Now, one thing that this question from Swampsy was concerned with was the ramping up of content after the game is launched, and what that means for the heroes we're going to get at launch. So currently we know that 6 heroes are in the works, but it's been a long time theory of our Discord community, which you haven't joined, links down below, that we may not get all 6 at launch. And it seems like that might be the case. Here Reynad says that they might take 1 or 2 of the first 6 heroes out for closed beta so that they can release them later on as have sort of that content buffer while they develop the 7th. My personal theory for this is that they'll probably keep it to 4 for the closed beta, maybe release the 5th at launch, and then the 6th for their first content release. As far as the 7th goes, they already know its theme, its name, that's all locked in. They're just currently working on the cards and the mechanics, etc. So that one, not too far ahead in the future. Speaking of future classes, one person asked whether they would get a wizard class eventually, and Reynad basically didn't rule anything out. They want to have magic in their world, they want to have everything in their world, but they wanted to pick the alchemist to begin with because they felt like it gave them some more flavor and some different angles on what the generic fantasy world might have, so that they can have a bit of spice going into the launch. But there very may well be a wizard in the future of some description. A quick look at a couple of current mechanics. The sandstorm does still exist. It's still very much a thing. It'll tick more rapidly, it sounds like now, rather than being very desperate between each tick. It's going to feel much more like a flow than a incremental thing. Also, they are very much still having builds centered around getting to the sandstorm. So our old-time favorite of Pygmalion luxury tents is probably still very much a thing, being able to heal and outlast your opponent even throughout the sandstorm and having it kill them. As far as OP Mac builds go, it was very much potion-centric, and that's kind of the only thing that was played in the last build of Mac, because they were just too strong. There was a beginning of day potion that would absolutely break the game, so they don't really know where Mac is meta-wise right now because that build was so broken, but we know at least that he has potions. We kind of got that already, but it's good to see that Mac was doing well for a while at least. That'll keep the Mac boys happy. A final note on mechanics as far as the game goes. They've changed a lot. Joy, flight, other core mechanics have changed a lot since we last saw them, so they might have circled back to where they are, but it's unlikely that the game looks exceptionally similar to how we did before. Joy is probably going to work very differently. Flight, we think we know works very differently from the last time we saw it. The last couple of leaks we got hinted at Flight working very differently. We knew they were looking at Joy, but everything else is up for grabs too. Dooley probably works massively different to how he did, and Mac, we have never really seen him, but we know Mac has changed a bunch, so those 4 classes, especially Vanessa and Pygmalion, probably okay, but who knows what's happened to speed or strength or any of the other stats and different events, and everything may have changed. So if we thought we knew what we knew before, it's still very much worth sticking around, keeping an eye on things, because as new news comes out, it's going to be exactly that. It's going to be new and not necessarily rehashed info over and over, because so much has changed. There is actually also a new progression system, or at least information on a progression system in the game. We had little tidbits of this before, but this is, as far as I'm aware, the first time that Reynad's actually nailed it down. Effectively, how this is going to work is when you get a new hero, you won't have all of the cards or items for them unlocked. You'll have to play through a bunch of times to unlock those further items. There will be a paid version where you can just pay your way through that unlocking process. It's not necessarily pay to win unless you consider the first couple of days, where people that pay are going to have all of the cards and people that don't won't have all of the cards. But realistically, it's a nice sort of introduction to the class. It's very similar to what things like Marvel Snap does, what Hearthstone does, where you don't start with the entire collection, you start with a basic collection, and as you gather cards, you learn them one by one, rather than having to learn everything at once. It's a really good idea, a good system for getting people into the game and into classes and you know, I'm looking forward to it myself. I may or may not pay my way through some of them. Who knows? But I'm a content creator and I already know a lot of that stuff. So it's not necessarily a progression system aimed at me, but either way, I think it's a good addition. So now the thing that you're probably clicking onto this video for, and hopefully you followed the links down below, the timestamp down below to get here if this is the first thing you wanted to watch. If you did skip the other things, make sure you go back and watch them because there was some really interesting stuff in there. But now we finally get to the question of blockchain. Reynad actually put pen to paper. Okay, before I get into this, I have to state, none of this is confirmed. This is Reynad saying, he uses the word hypothetically and like puts it in italics. Hypothetically, this is what's going to happen. My thoughts, my comments on what he has said are based on his hypothetical situation. None of this is confirmed. I'm probably wrong about a lot of things, but I'm going to go into this and I'm going to give my interpretation because that's what I do. That's what I'm here for. But just bear in mind, we could very much be wrong. Pay attention to the pinned comments or something just in case something changes and I get alerted and I'll put it down there. Reynad was asked if the trade cosmetic feature will be built into the client or the website, and this somehow got us information on blockchain. He said, in a way, there will be both trading inside the client and on a separate website. Hypothetically, the trading inside the client will just be that. It won't have any link to blockchain whatsoever. You'll just be able to trade with other players, swap cosmetic, etc. However, they do say, and we tax it. I don't know if that means they're going to tax you some sort of in-game currency that you can just earn. I don't know if that means they're going to tax you an in-game currency that is paid. I don't know if that's going to tax you some other way. I can't off the top of my head think of how that would be. But to me, this sounds like in the game, you will be able to swap cosmetics with other people for a small actual in-game currency cost. So, you know, the currency that you pay for, gold, gems, whatever it is, you'll have to pay a small amount of that to do this trade. I'm glad that it's an option, but let me get into the other side of things before I draw my conclusion. On the website, if you're interested in blockchain stuff, he says, you can connect your MetaMask. I'm not particularly fluent in this type of world yet. I'm going to be looking into it, so excuse me for this. And take your collectibles/gems out of your account and then put them into your wallet. At that point, they will be out of our system and your responsibility. You can import them back into your account anytime you want. So this sounds like, say you have a shiny luxury tense in-game. This is not even a thing. Let's say it's a toy. Okay, you've got the bubblegum blower toy, right? You can take that, I say physically, you can digitally take that out of the game, so you will no longer be able to use that toy in the game, attach it to this external website of theirs that they are using, and from there you'll be able to trade it for real as it can be, blockchain currencies or whatever. You like, if you kind of understand blockchain, you're trading it for real worth, in inverted commas, for anyone just listening audibly. Once you're done trading there, you can then import stuff from this website back into the game. At that point, you can no longer trade it on blockchain, but you can now use it in the game. This is a little bit like the Steam Marketplace. However, there is a particular denotation to spot in here, at least one that I've spotted. Reynad may have just accidentally omitted it, I don't know, again, hypothetically. On the client itself, apologies if you can hear the construction work going on next door. In the client itself, there will be a tax. This is for people that do not wish to use blockchain, that just want to use the client. There will be a tax on trades. There is no hint at a tax on the website. So if you want to trade via the blockchain, there is apparently no tax. If this is the case, while it does provide that separation of blockchain from just regular trading, which I think the game kind of needs given the super bad press of blockchain, NFTs, etc., and crypto over the past few years, while I understand that they do desperately want to have blockchain integrated into this game somehow, and I'm perfectly okay with that, I do want this separation. Adding a tax onto the non-blockchain side only kind of forces you towards using blockchain. For example, if I'm going to be using this game a lot, I don't want to just have that anti-blockchain tax, you know? or non-blockchain tax, I guess, I'd probably end up having to use this website because I'd be trading so much. I don't want that to happen to people that don't want to be involved in blockchain. So speaking for the people here, this isn't necessarily where I want to see it go, but I can understand how it got here, and I could also understand that maybe he just misspoke or missed the tax that's happening on the blockchain stuff, or maybe we just don't understand the taxing at all. But that's the bit that really highlighted for me that there could be a bit of a problem here. So there you have it. We have blockchain coming, we have progression of cards coming, a bunch of different mechanics have been changed. There is a lot coming to the game, and we are definitely starting to ramp up. I want to create a video on where I see this going, but I am kind of waiting for a little bit of news first. So let's see when and where we get that. And then as soon as we do, pay attention to the channel.